I was always encouraged to be me, to be the best you can be, but without any pressure.
I know you obviously through your lovely husband, which is my brother, say my
Yes.
brother-in-law type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Mr. Chris Brown. Da-da-da-da. So, and it's just so lovely that we are able to create our own relationship outside of the friendship that I have with your husband.
Yes, I am the wife of the lovely Coach Chris Brown. But I'm really excited to be here today with you and to share with you and your viewers.
Yeah, thank you, Hazel. You know what it is that the reason why it was just really laid on my heart to start long story short is that I know that one of my main purpose is about resilience. I feel that I'm always being tested in resilience. And I'm just really keen to know and to hear how people deal with resilience because I want to be able to build up my resilience tank type of thing. Do you know what I mean? So I thought, oh my gosh, let me reach out to people and hear how they have developed and unfolded into resilience. So when I reached out to you and we had a wonderful conversation about, your career and growing up in Trinidad, I was like, yeah, this is amazing. This is something that I feel that people would be interested in as well as inspired to know that, that whatever situation that you're faced in, career or personal, you're still able to build up that resilience tank and go on through. So our first part of this wonderful conversation that we're going to have is about your formative years.
I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago is one of the most southerly isles in the Caribbean, and I'm Generation X. I grew up, my formative years is in Trinidad. I grew up in an extended family with grandparents and aunties, uncles, cousins around, parents. And I believe that all of that have molded and contributed to who I am today. And I'm quite glad that you've mentioned the word resilience because when I look at growing up in Trinidad, enjoying my formative years, enjoying my education years, my friends, the natural beauty of the country, and so many learning experiences, playing sport, having the lovely warm weather, and obviously different hurdles in life. You don't realize the importance of resilience. And looking back to now, I can see the formative years of building resilience. Growing up, I was always encouraged to be me, to be the best you can be, but without any pressure. It was the support from my parents, it was the nurturing. And as I said, growing up in an extended family, the bonus of having grandparents and around and the wisdom, the wealth of wisdom that they pass on to you, the nurturing, the love and the care, it all adds and support and enable you to be the person that you want to be. And during my school years, I did well in my exams and my tests. I was always either first or second in test, and if I came second, the next time around I'll be first because that was my drive. I won't say that overly competitive. No, I always wanted to do better, and it was my own personal goals. There was no pressure. There was just nurturing and encouragement, no pressure. But me personally, always strive to do better than the time before and the time before and the time before. I was between a bit of a crossroads in terms of what should I study as a career. And mind you, I didn't have career development in schools. I didn't have mentorship in schools. On hindsight, I believe that mentoring and all the career advice is so important, so beneficial. I then decided I really wanted to have a career in economics. I was passionate about economics, accounting, and one of my relatives said to me, "Have you ever considered a career in nursing?" And I never did. I never did. And I thought about it and I thought, hang on, wait a second. Maybe that's an angle I can look at. In saying so, I became excited about undertaking nursing, but I never undertook science subjects in school. So it was undertaking nursing because I developed the passion to do so without any science subjects. And I made a decision that I was leaving Trinidad, my lovely island, and coming into the UK. I had the support of my relatives in London, the settling in period. I made myself sort of learn even more quickly to move around, to navigate London, to understand the systems in London, the different cultures in London. And I was excited. I was excited that I was going to further education and nursing school. There's challenges in everything that we do, challenges in learning, in developing, but the resilience was being built every step of the way. Philosophies or mottos in my nursing careers: if I've made a difference to one person, it's worth it.
And I was just thinking about, I was watching something online, and a gentleman said that if a younger person was to listen to an older person, they would go fast and far.
Very true.
You understand what I mean? And
Wisdom,
yes, wisdom,
wisdom.
yes. And because that older person is giving you information and knowledge in order to circumvent you going through the ups and the downs. Do you know what I mean? But as
Absolutely.
you listened to that individual, it helped you to, decide, well, fall into the career of an NHS and think, yeah, this could be a side route for me.
Yes.
I absolutely really believe as well that with regards to your upbringing in Trinidad, I believe that definitely was the root, that was your root, your foundation of building up your character, building up your resilience so that you was able to make it in the UK.
For me, I was excited about learning and understanding people and their perspective on things. And Trinidad and Tobago is a cosmopolitan country in itself, and there's different cultures all living as one. So you're used to differences, different people all living together as one. We've got a magnitude of different foods that represent the different cultures that's there. So when I moved into London, although I wouldn't initially have identified myself as the most confident person, but because I love learning, not just professionally, but always looking at how can I make the better version of myself. So it was easy to analyze myself, to look at what steps I need to take forward.
Whilst you're speaking, I'm also thinking about how do we learn to be resilient? Do you know what I mean? Because if I think of myself growing up and in Korea, I have learned through going through situations, do you know what I mean? And really doing a lot of deep work and becoming more self-aware of my skills, my abilities, and also my weaknesses is in areas.
Yes.
And resilience is something that we cannot run or hide away from. Okay, because life is full of different situations, which is always going to push us, do you know what I mean? And force us to really see who we are.
Mm-hmm.
So if I think about what is resilience, how have I unfolded in resilience, I would say that it is important for us to not shy or hide away from situations, but to face it and to go on through. In terms of what you were saying, I really, what is your definition of resilience?
That's a very interesting point, Sophie, you've made about what is resilience. And from your example, it captures it. The only thing I will add to it is you keep trying. You keep trying at it. You just don't stop. You know, it's like if you're a child on a bike, for example, roller skates, and you've got accidents or you've had a fall, you know, you get a little bit bruised, upset, you cry. We've all been there. Don't just say, oh, I hate roller skating, I hate cycling and being on a bike. You've got to get up, nurse what you need to nurse, the bruises, the cuts, what have you, and go back to it. That's life. So it's a combination of don't give up, keep going, keep trying, learn from those who've been there, seek help, do your research, do further research. And it's almost like I've been mentioning about keen on learning and stuff, but when you look at some of the well-known researchers undertaking work on the whole learning cycle. It's about the doing, the acting. You plan before you do it and you evaluate it. You reevaluate it as you go along, isn't it? So it's like a cycle. It doesn't encourage you to stop.
That's really good advice because, as you know, part of the work that I do a lot of remote training
Mhm.
in interview skills and personal development. And one of the key things that I share with my learners is the importance of being within the present moment.
Yeah.
And, especially when it comes to interview skills, the things that you can do, like all those wonderful mindfulness techniques. And I want to do a shout out to Stephen Thomas from Mind Bubbles because he is an amazing not mind bubbles, mindfulness expert in that field. And it's so important to remain and to be present. And you're so right, because when we look back, what do people say? What happens when we look back? When we look back or we continue to ruminate over the past, it leads to misery. So it is so important. And I think that is most probably the aspect of resilience is you can do some form of reflection, but you don't stay there. Do you know what I mean? You just have to rewire your mind, your brain to think of the things of the future, the things, or right now, or the things that you can do in your control.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And in your control. So your particular work, if we talk about what your job is, Miss PhD, soon to be Miss PhD. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Only to make the difference to others.
Mm. I hear you. I hear you. And that is your passion, your purpose, isn't it? To make the difference to others. So in terms of your job role, um, you're in management, you are a leader, you mentor and inspire others, isn't it, as well?
Yes.
And like I have been forced into leadership. That's how it feels, you know. I think leadership was behind saying, Sophia, you have to get into leadership, you know, management, you know, you can't be
That's
running away from it no more type of thing, you know.
yeah.
Um, and the thing that I do find, which is quite, I'm going to say it's a challenge, and this is real talk now, it's a challenge, is managing people, managing different types of personalities. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
what I find, it can be a challenge, but also um, something that I look forward to is this, is me being myself and not second guessing how I am in terms of how I interact with others.
Mhm.
That's helped me to deal with situations and be resilient.
My current position, my role is mainly strategic with some operational input. So it's a dual type role, and it's a senior role, clinician management role within the NHS. You have to do, as a leader and as a manager, it's important to really invest in your workforce. And to get the best out of your workforce, you have to enable, and it's almost like you have to really care for your staff. You have to love them and support them. And you will get the best out of your staff if you enable, empower, support them, and lead by example. And when you lead by example, they will see that you are there with them. So it's easier to take people with you when you lead by example. You know, always be ahead of yourself, so to speak. It's almost like role modeling to a certain extent. I talk a lot with my hands, right?
Me too.
And
Me
that's
too. I can't help it.
that's the
I really
Caribbean.
cannot help it. Yeah, I cannot help it. But you said a good thing there about leading by example. And when I talk about that managing people in terms of it's a challenge, I don't mean it in a negative.
Mhm.
I mean it in a way that how it really helps me to identify my strengths. Do you know what I mean? Because I believe that I am good at making a connection with individuals and highlighting and drawing out their strengths and their skills. So I
Mhm.
use challenging, but not in a negative sense, but a sense of how it impacts me in terms of my ability to connect with, you know, staff and my staff, I should
Yes.
say. But yes, I think leading by example is really key. And if I think about my time in my career, doing bits and bobs and such like. What I would like you to share maybe some useful ideas about what you do to remain resilient whilst at work.
That's a very good point. Um, it's holistic. It's about a holistic approach. And when you look at the 24-hour period, we spend at least a third or half of a 24-hour period at work. So it's important to be prepared within yourself physically and mentally. I believe in looking after the holistic side of my being. So physically, I always endeavor to eat well, to eat healthy, to exercise. I'm not fanatic on things, but I follow the guidance and the recommendations. Talking about eat well, 5 a day. I'm a big fan of 5 a day, drinking at least 2 liters of water or fluids a day, taking my vitamins, exercising at least twice a week. And even if you don't do intense exercise, you walk, you stretch, you move yourself along, keep the muscles supple. You deep breathe, relaxation exercise, you clear your mind, you clear your brain, and you release all of those happy hormones also within your body to help you focus. An important part of my life is meditation, prayer life. My prayer life is important for me, and that's what I do on a daily basis. And when I talk about holistic, that is part of the holistic approach. It's important to have good sleep also.
Let me tell you about the good sleep. That is number one priority. Yeah, number one
Yes.
priority for me, because I tell you what, before COVID, I used to go to bed by 9 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock. I'm in my bed. Everybody knows to call Sophia before 9, 10 o'clock, because
That's
otherwise
it.
she is going to be in her bed and I would ignore the calls.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I tell you what, there has been a change. And I'm not happy with this change. COVID, right? Came and just, whoa, my whole sleep routine is just, hey, it's just
Yes.
different. Okay. And what I'm finding now, if I get to bed by 11, 11:30, that would be good. But I always need 8 hours sleep is standard. Whatever
Mhm,
time I go to bed, I'm always resting for 8 hours. And
mhm.
for me, sleep is essential. It is important. I love sleeping. I love the whole routine of going to bed. Do you know what I mean? Having a bath, doing my skin, exfoliating, wrapping up my hair. I love all of that, creaming, putting on nice smells. I love the whole routine of going to bed, preparing for bed, in my bed. I just love it, you know?
It's
But
medicine. It's
that
medicine.
it is
It
medicine,
heals.
and it helps. And I think that having a good night's sleep, but I think sleep in general, it helps and it aids a long life too. Do
Definitely.
you know what I
And
mean?
evidence have shown that people that sleep well, at least 7, 8 hours per day, eat well, exercise, they're long livers. And I cannot remember specifically the year that piece of study was done, but there was a small cohort of people living over 100 years. And one of the factors that was shown to contribute to living 100 years plus and healthy was having good quality sleep.
Well, I'm going to be one of those 100 people, right? Because let me tell you something, right? That is my thing is, oh yes, I want to get to 100. That is my thing. I want to get to 100. So I'm nearly there. If I enjoy my sleep at least, 8 hours a day, that will be just fantastic. So when you're talking about sleeping and everything, and that is one of the key things in terms of maintaining our resilience, because it keeps
Yes,
us healthy, mind, body, spirit,
yes,
able to make the right decisions. But what I'm finding is that for myself, I am postmenopausal now. I've been going through the menopause for about 10 years, and now at the end of it, if we can say that type of thing. Um, and at the beginning, my sleep was definitely affected, but not now. My sleep is just so much better. But what I have had to do in terms of maintaining my overall health and well-being, as well as dealing with, the menopause symptoms along the way, is to make sure that I do some form of exercise. If
yes,
I don't do exercise, it's curtains for me, right?
yeah,
I'm in a problem for the whole week. I need to do exercise. If
yes,
I don't
yes,
do exercise, I'm aching. I feel like I'm, 200 years old type of thing. Do you know what I
mhm,
mean?
yes,
So for me, in terms of maintaining my overall, health and well-being, and to ensure that I am the best version of myself, I need to work out. And you know
mhm,
what the next thing for me is? I need to juice.
yes, yes. As you mentioned, menopause journey, indeed, it is a journey. When you look at the woman's life, puberty, starting cycles, monthly cycles, so to speak, and then all of a sudden, you start having symptoms that those things are changing. So the whole thing from the beginning to the end of a woman's life, it's almost like a hormonal journey, so to speak. For me, I try to eat the foods that work well for me. Sometimes I discover like certain veg, for example, certain salads, you know, I eat it and I don't have any symptoms per se. And if I didn't eat it, I found myself having some symptoms. So for me, you know what? I'm going to go back to eat the stuff that works for me. I tend to avoid um, too much of processed food. I try to keep it as natural as possible. 5 a day, lots of fruit, lots of salad, lots of veg. Avoid too much of fried foods. Um, I'm not saying that, I eliminate it altogether. It's just understanding what works for you and what doesn't work for you.
I really hear you talking about the things that you are doing in order
Mhm.
to maintain your overall health and well-being.
Yes,
Also, I think that also impacts upon how you are able to manage work situations. And again, going back to resilience, because I've
yes.
got some data here, which is from the Chartered Institute of Personal Development, CIPD.
Hmm.
And they said for those who are experienced of menopause, because menopause is definitely different to perimenopause. Menopause is
Yes.
when you've had no period for 12 months. For those who are menopausal, of those who are negatively affected at work, 79% said they were less able to concentrate. 68% said they experienced more stress. And nearly half, about 49%, said they felt less patient with clients and colleagues. And it's so very, we have to be, well, I in terms of the work that I do, and also with my family and friends and those who are going through perimenopause and menopause stage, we have to be more understanding, more kind, and more empathetic. Do you understand what I mean? Because people are going through, and sometimes they may not even be that much self-aware about, oh, I think my attitude's a bit off here. But there's nothing I can do to stop it, type of thing. But just bear with me. Okay. We're now coming to the end. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, I know. It's like, oh my gosh,
Having fun.
And as we come to the end, I would just like to ask you just to share a word of advice for somebody who could be struggling, who's struggling with bouncing back, struggling with a situation, going through an adverse, time in their life, a season in their life. What advice would you give them?
In a nutshell, I would say you are able, you are enough, don't give up, you are special, you're valuable, keep going at it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Just chip away small bits, small chunks, but keep going forward. Don't look back.